Hello, how are you doing today? So I'm doing my visual riffing essay on a legendary photographer by the name of Robert Frank. He was born in 1924 in Switzerland. His mother was named Rosa Franks and his father was named Hermann Frank. Two glorious names there. Robert Frank states in Jared Fox's 2005 documentary Coming Home, that his mother, Rosa, had a Swiss passport, while his father, Hermann, originating from Frankfurt, Germany, had become stateless after losing his German citizenship as a Jew. This is important because as you see on this next slide, the middle picture towards the bottom is Jewish sounding name. And this, he is actually making a joke about his father, as they never really had a good relationship. And he was scared because of the Nazis in Switzerland, or not in Switzerland, but in Germany during World War II. But his family remained safe in Switzerland. So Mr. Frank turned to photography, as this was a means to escape the confinements of his business orientated family and home, and trained under a few photographers and graphic designers before he created his own handmade book of photography. And his first book was 40 photos in 1946. And he actually emerged as one of the greater photographers this world has ever seen from the start. Because like I said, he did the first book in 1946, and then he immigrated to the United States in 1947. He secured a job real quick in New York City as a fashion photographer for Harper's Bazaar, which was a clothing place in New York City. So it was a pretty good first gig there. And actually, no, it was a clothing slash newspaper. But he actually soon left to travel to South America and Europe, as he created another handmade book of photographs that he shot in Peru. And then he returned to the US back in 1950. This year was monumentous for Frank. He got a brand new job after meeting with Edward Steichen. He participated in a group show that had the 51 best American photographers in the world, actually in North America. And then he married fellow artist Mary Frank, who he met at this convention, and they ended up having two children. It was a great marriage, and it turned out to be awesome. So, a little background on Frank and how his photography started. He was initially optimistic about the United States society and culture. Frank's perspective quickly changed as he confronted the fast pace of American life and what he saw as an overemphasis on money. He now saw America as one that was just bleak and lonely, and his perspective wanted it to be a little more personality, a little more outgoing. So Frank's own dissatisfaction with the control that editors exercise over his work also undoubtedly colored his experience. Frank continued to travel. He continued to branch out. He continued to see things. He continued to take photos. He continued to widen his range of photographic materials. And then he moved his family to Paris briefly, which why? Because he wanted to be in a beautiful place like Paris. You can create so many different scenes in in a photograph, like love, pain, anguish, beautiful, light, all these different aspects of a photo really define it. And Frank thought that by going to Paris, he could really do this. But he shortly returned after with his family to New York, and he continued to work as a freelance photojournalist for magazines like McCall's, Vogue, Fortune. So we're talking about the top magazines. I mean, Frank, he's just a legend. Um, Something that's very wild is Robert Frank is indeed still alive, and he will celebrate his 92nd birthday he did celebrate his 92nd birthday last November. And this is very important because he literally redefined the concept of what makes something a photograph. And people are still to this day admire his work. And what's remarkable about Frank's photos is that they're seemingly unremarkable, setting them apart from the slick photography common to the era where he grew up in and was engulfed in. He wanted to stand out. So Frank postulated that one might, with profit, take seriously what people took seriously. His proposition worked because of the force and penetration of his vision. He had a new vision. He wanted to show it to the world, to the people. He wanted to convey that photograph reproduced here with the tuba player is a perfect specimen of what was a time, a new Guinness of picture. The human situation described as not merely faceless, but mindless. As you can see, you cannot see a face in this photo. You just see a body, fingers playing the trumpet, and then you see the head of the trumpet, but no actual face. And in that regards, you think deeper, no mind. From the fine shiny rises of the comic balloon from behind him, that pronounces one of the most virtue of ritual patriotism, because you can kind of tell that behind him there is somewhat of a flag, somewhat of a balloon, somewhat of a something that is really important. On either side of the tuba player stand his fellows. They're as anonymous and as dependable as he. You see to the left, there is just nothing there. You see an arm. Perhaps it's a man, perhaps it's a woman, perhaps it's a thing, perhaps it's a flag, perhaps it's a balloon, but perhaps indeed it is his best friend. Or is it not? We do not know. That's what Frank emphasized in his photos. He wanted to convey this kind of mystery. And then to the right, you see an arm. Could it be his wife? Could it be some random bystander on the road? We do not know. It could be funnier, it could be sadder, it could be truer. And that was the occasion here at this rally that this photo is based on. Another interesting photo here is the Americans. This is one of Robert Frank's most famous photographs, and with Frank's pictures like this one, they show a certain realism most Americans were not really accustomed to at the time, as you can tell, whether it be the furrowed brow of the African American riding the bus, or, as you can see, some teenagers languidly hanging out of their car. In many ways, Frank borrowed a truth not seen before. And really, this truth was an ugly truth that reflected the thinking of his time, most notably that shared by the writers and poets of the Beat generation forming in New York City at this time. With the interracial, you have the youngsters, then you have a serious mother staring out. There's a lot of different personalities going through this photograph, and if you really study it and look at the top, look at the bottom, look at the sides, you really can understand it. So in 1955, Robert Frank left New York City in a second-hand black Ford business coupe and set out on one of the most famous road trips in photo history. What we see in the three-story atrium of the gallery, which is not pictured here, but in this Dubai gallery, you will see 3 floors of photographs from Robert Frank, and this is where he really captured images of truth, but not a truth that people were used to seeing at that time. That's what made them draw so much closer to his photographs, because he would take them in such a way that it would convey how much the world is changing. But really, is it not? Is it progressing in a way that's less racist, that's less old-timey art? Is it moving in a way towards technology? Is it moving away towards peace? You don't know. But with Robert Frank's photos, you really see this everywhere. And it really makes you think. So here is my side-by-side comparison. I chose my photo that I took. It was in Hawaii, actually, and it's of 4 individuals. They're at a restaurant and just eating, which is one thing that Robert Frank really, he photographed that as well, was people eating, people talking, people gathering, people just relaxing. And that's something that other photographers really didn't do back in his time. So that's why I chose this one, because it's very interesting. And also, you can tell they're both black and white, obviously, but you can see how in my photograph on the left, you see a couple of people looking into the camera, but also you see one who is looking away, as if the camera is not even close or inside of anything. And if you notice on the picture on the right, you see more people looking away instead of looking at the camera. But you do see 2 people looking at the camera. This is just great personality, and the really context of the photo can be shown. You see a bunch of signs, advertisement in both photos that are comparable, and you see there's a hand in the bottom of the right photo. It's a mysterious hand, you don't really know, but as you notice on the left hand in my photo, you also do see a hand as well. So those really go hand in hand with each other. And yeah, so I chose Robert Frank, and I learned a lot, and that's my riffing essay. Thank you.